And now, for our storyteller of the evening, give it up for Arthur one time.
I realize this is the closest speakeasy to Mother's Day. It's just like a week and a bit away. And I thought, rather than talk about myself yet again, I'm going to tell you about my mom. Here's the thing. None of you know my mother because this is a room full of actors and directors and playwrights and wonderful performers. If this was a room full of primatologists, you would all know my mother. She was never as famous as Jane Goodall, but in the primatological world, everyone knew there was Jane Goodall for chimpanzees, Diane Fossey for gorillas, and Alison Jolly for lemurs. My mother did the first behavioral studies of lemurs in the wild. She had a little research site in Burenti in the south of Madagascar, and she went back there every single year for the next 50 years. I didn't realize how much my mother knew about that place until I was in my 20s, and we'd lived there when I was a kid. We went there a few times when I was growing up, but I went back with her 20-something while she was hired to take a group of tourists around the whole country for 3 weeks. And for 3 weeks, they asked my mother questions non-stop from morning until night about everything. They were in Madagascar for the first time. It's a bizarre country. It split up from Africa 160 million years ago while everything was still joined as Pangaea. It's divergent evolution. Almost everything that lives there is endemic to Madagascar. So they just asked question after question. What is the carving on that tomb? What is the name of that plant? What is this cultural habit? And my mother answered every question, and not only answered it, she added something. Oh, that carving, that's how many zebus were killed at the funeral. And by the way, you have to come over to the other corner of the cemetery. There's a tombstone there with an airplane carved on top of it because it belonged to a tribal leader who once flew on an airplane. Oh, that flower there? Here's the name of it, here's the Latin name, and run your fingers across the top because every now and then one of them will get up and scuttle away because there is an insect mimic whose shell has evolved to look exactly like the flower petals and you can't even see it until it moves. Everything they asked her, she knew, except once. We were on a bus, I call it a bus, we were on our bus thing, and someone, I forget what it was, they asked her a question, and she looked at them and she said, I don't know. And then she went and she sat in the back of the bus for about 15 minutes staring at her lap. And everyone thought, oh my God, I think we broke her. And then she came back and she said, no, I don't know, but I have 4 theories. And she laid them out. Each one had facts to back it up, was a reasoned scientific argument. I'm sure one of them was right. But that is not the moment that I wanted to tell you about. This is not just the moment that I think of when I think of my mother in Madagascar. This is the moment that I think about when I think about my mother. And it was on that trip. We were driving from Fort Dauphin in the south up to Burenti, up to her research site, the part of the country she knew better than anywhere. We were driving through an area called the Spiny Desert. And when I say it's called that, I mean my mother coined the term the Spiny Desert in one of her books, and now that's what it's known as. It doesn't look like anywhere else on Earth, but if it was in this country, it would be the desert of southern Arizona where the tall saguaros grow. But it's Madagascar, so everything is alien and weird looking. The ground is bright red laterite soil. There are no saguaros, but there are thin, spindly plants that fill the same kind of ecological role. They're dark brown with rings of thorns going up in a spiral. Everything is in shades of brown with thorns and spikes all over it. There's only one bit of green, which is the corolliform plant, which it looks like a low bushy tree, but instead of leaves, it has these fat bloated fingers of that dark waxy green that some desert plants have. But you have to be careful as you work your way around it, because those fingers will snap off at the slightest pressure, and the sap inside is caustic. It will burn your skin. We are driving through this landscape on a single lane road that was paved back in the French colonial era. There were portions of it where we'd drive next to it because it was actually easier to drive next to the road than on the road. And my mother she's talking to the driver, and she keeps looking out. She's like, oh, we're almost, not yet, keep going, but it's soon, I'll tell you when. We've been going through this for 2 hours. It's just featureless desert as far as I'm concerned. But my mother suddenly says, stop, right here. And we stop. We don't pull over because there isn't going to be any other traffic on that road that week. But we stop, and my mother says, all right, everyone, grab your cameras, get off the bus and follow me. And she sets off at right angles to the road into the spiny desert, picking her way around these wonderful plants. And after 5 or 10 minutes, we reach a plant that doesn't look like anything else. The base of it is a little like a sisal plant or an agave, those single leaves with a spine on the each end coming out. But in the center, there is a woody stem going up 18 or 20 feet with a cluster of bright yellow flowers at the top. My mother says, oh my God, it's blooming. It doesn't do that every year. It's only if there's been rain in the last year. It's 6 or 7 years it will bloom. She says, this is a species of aloe that is endemic to Madagascar. It was declared extinct in 1948. This is the only one. It will bloom occasionally, but there's no other plant to pollinate it, so the blooms just die. And she said, when this is dead, it will be gone from the planet. And we took our photos, and we got back in the bus, and we kept on driving. My mother died 10 years ago, and I don't think there's anyone that could find that plant. I don't know if anyone still knows that plant exists, let alone where it is. And it was decades ago. It may be gone by now, but it's a desert plant. They live a long time. Those saguaros in Arizona can be 200 or 300 years old. So I like to think that plant is still out there somewhere, and I know it's still in here. Thank you.
Yeah.